Well, the dreaded tax day is almost here, and millions of you still have not filed. Well, if you don't know where to start, you are definitely not alone. The U.S. tax code contains 7 billion words, if you can believe it. No wonder it's confusing to everyone. Here to help you figure it all out is Deborah Sweeney, CEO of MyCorporation and also a tax expert. Thank you so much for being here.
Thanks for having me, Peggy.
You must be very popular this time of year.
Yep.
I can imagine. Well, it's very confusing to do your taxes, and a lot of people get totally overwhelmed by it. So we want to know, what should people do if they have not yet filed their taxes?
I think the first thing they need to do is look back at their tax records to make sure that they have everything organized. Sometimes people think of working on November and December, but they need to go all the way back to January of 2010.
And most people keep things like throughout the year, but if they do have to go back that far, what should they be looking for specifically? Just every single little expenditure?
Things that they sold, things that they bought, things that they donated. So just making sure you have your tax documents to support that, your receipts.
Okay, and how do you know specifically what you can deduct? Because it seems like for certain professions you can deduct certain things, and other professions other things. So how do people know where to start?
Mostly it's things that are done in the line of your business. So if you typically can deduct business expenses, but there are a whole other realm of deductions that can be made. For example, deductions for your children, or deductions for purchasing a home, deductions for starting a new business. So there are lots of different deductions that can be taken that people need to pay attention to.
And we are getting a little bit close to the final day that you can actually get your taxes in. What if people just don't have it together? They're way behind. What do we do now?
File an extension. It's not a problem. Sometimes people perceive it to be a negative thing, but filing an extension is not a problem. They're granted as a matter of course. You just get the extension, but you have to know that when you file your extension, you actually still have to pay your taxes. So people sometimes think they file their extension and they don't have to pay. That's not the case. They still have to pay their estimated taxes, and then they can have their paperwork within 6 months from the date they file that extension.
Okay, so it's not viewed as a negative thing to file your taxes late and to do the extension. A lot of people do think it's a negative thing.
And in fact, a lot of businesses use it as a tax planning strategy. They actually do it because they're not prepared. They don't have all of their documents in order, so they make sure that they take advantage of that and file the extension so they can get everything together.
Okay, now something that I know you a lot about, it's been a tough economy. It's been a rough, couple of years for a lot of folks out there. In fact, many people unemployed, and they started up their own business in order to try to get income from somewhere. What about those folks filing their taxes?
Starting new businesses is a great idea. You can protect your assets and save on taxes by incorporating or forming an LLC. And you mentioned incorporating. You actually are able to save on taxes and decrease the rate of your tax rate and the risk of audit. So your risk of audit goes down from about 2.7% on average to 0.3% when you're an incorporated business.
If you form an LLC or incorporate.
Right, an S corporation is a common type of entity that people form when they're starting a new business, and that's the rate where it's 0.3% risk of audit. So it's a phenomenal way to protect yourself from getting audited.
So actually forming the LLC or incorporating will protect you from getting that audit, which is a kind of an added bonus to go ahead and do that.
Exactly.
Can you get more write-offs if you are incorporated? Or?
A lot of small businesses can have significant amount of write-offs. So one of the biggest write-offs is the $10,000 deduction that you get for starting a small business.
Talk a little bit about that.
So that's a new deduction that just got increased from $5,000 to $10,000 in the year. So that's when small businesses start and they form or incorporate, and then they're able to write off $10,000 of their startup expenses. So you go and you buy a computer, or you go and you lease a car because you have to travel. All of those are considered startup expenses that can be deducted from your business.
$10,000 worth, that's not bad. Okay, last but not least, what is the worst mistake that people make when they are filing their taxes?
People don't save their receipts, they don't write off their children as a deduction, and they don't make sure they talk to an accountant, because talking to someone who's a professional in the area, you can get all sorts of tax benefits from doing that.
Yeah, is it even possible to file your taxes without an accountant anymore? It seems really difficult because it's so complicated. Well, thank you so much for being here. We really appreciate the advice, Deborah. Appreciate that. And you can find all of this information and more on our Facebook page. Just go to WNNFans.com. You're watching World News Now. We'll be right back.